Hello. I just finished my last video, I guess I should say my first video, Immortalities and Obituaries, about 15 minutes ago. And the thing that I would like to talk about this time is the perception of time, and kind of what it's like to me and how it feels to me, as well as the possibility of false memories, because those two kind of, in a way for me, go hand in hand, and I kind of think about them both as being hand in hand. Um, Now, the perception of time. For me, time goes by really quickly. When I saw that my first video was almost 13 minutes long, I was extremely surprised. I didn't realize that that amount of time had gone by that quickly. Um, and that's something that's always been a thing with me for as long as I can remember, though I would like to say that I really noticed it on my 16th birthday. That magical birthday year, that magical birthday day of every girl ever. Sweet 16, you know. I had my 16th birthday and thought, what's the big deal? You know, it's not that big of a deal. It's not as great as it's perceived to be. And that was honestly a little bit disappointing. I didn't I thought, it would be a fun day, and it was. I loved my 16th birthday. But the one thing that I really noticed was how quickly time started to fly by. I actually noticed how quickly time passed. Even if I had noticed it in the past, even if I had noticed it in the past, I didn't really pay much attention to it until my 16th birthday. And every once in a while, now that I'm older, I still get that momentary fear of, oh goodness, I'm I'm already 20. I'm going to be 21. It was just barely 8 o'clock this morning, and already it's 5. Those kinds of things can terrify me sometimes, and I'm learning how to kind of control that anxiety that comes from it. Now, being friends with somebody who perceives time as much slower than I do is a little odd. They can count the minutes, they can keep track of time just fine. I, on the other hand, cannot. Hours can pass for me, and it'll be as if it were just a span of minutes. I don't know if that's like that for anybody else, but that's how I perceive time. Um, and my friends who perceive time a lot slower will look at me and say, this is how long we've been talking about this, right? No, I can't measure a minute without looking at a clock. I can't measure the time that has passed since we started doing something. It Time for me does not actually exist. And living in a world where time does exist, where we rely on what time it is, can be difficult sometimes. Because sometimes I'll be awake and ready to do things or ready to enjoy a certain thing, like playing video games, for example. And then I'll go and look at the time and go, gosh, it's already 11 o'clock at night. It's already midnight. How did it get to be that late? How? And I'll feel kind of bummed out about it because I wanted to do something else, or I wanted to watch this episode on YouTube or something. And I thought I had enough time, when in reality I did not. Over the summer, being in school over the summer, or rather, being in school and then having a summer vacation is fantastic for me because over summer I can just stay awake for as long as I want. I can do whatever I want without having to worry about time. Being in school, I have to be careful about that. I have to go to sleep at a certain time, and I have to wake up at a certain time, which I kind of hate. But it helps me keep track of the days a lot better than if it were summer. I have a process on my calendar where I mark off the days to make sure I know what day it is, to make sure I know this is the day that I go to work from 9 to 11, or this is the day I work 9 to 5. And so far, it's a pretty good system. It helps me remember what day it is, it helps me keep track of it, and I mark it off either right before I go to sleep or closer to the end of the day, so I know that the next day will be tomorrow and isn't now. I had a dream not too long ago that really confused me. I had woken up thinking that, okay, this is the day that I'm supposed to do this and do that. And I woke up from my nap really freaked out. I thought it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I thought, wait, did this already happen? Did this happen? Did this happen? What am I doing? What am I supposed to do? I woke up really confused. And after a while, it took me some time to realize it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I had a nap for about 2 or 3 hours, and everything is fine. Today is Thursday. I can continue to go on with my day. And for someone who doesn't have a good perception of time, actually for anybody at all, that can be a bit of a terrifying thought. You don't know what time it is, you don't know where you are, you don't know what day it is. Just always scary. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about, too, is how short it is for me. The other day, I was awake with a friend of mine, playing video games for 13 hours straight. That's the longest I have ever played a video game in my entire life. In that same amount of time, within just straight. The most I had ever played a video game before that, I believe, what I can recall, was 8 hours. 8 hours straight. And we had agreed not to talk until the next day, so that way we could, catch up on our day and whatnot. And I texted him saying, "Hey, are you ready for us to call?" And he was really confused. "Aren't we going to call? We weren't going to call today, were we? We were going to call tomorrow." And I said, "But it is tomorrow. We spoke yesterday and agreed not to talk later on in the day, but we would talk the next day." And that really confused him. He responded to me that he had lost an entire day because of the lack of sleep he had. And I told him in all honesty that that's how days go for me. He told me about how time just flew over his head and how he couldn't remember anything clear about the day before. He couldn't recall the passage of time. And I told him that that's what life is like for me. I can't recall the passage of time. I can't always recall something that happened throughout the day. No matter if I have a full 8 to 10 hours of sleep or no sleep at all. It's just kind of something that has always happened with me. And for him, that was extremely bizarre. That was really weird. And it was an interesting thought to me that not everybody perceives time the way that I do. I perceive it as, just virtually nothing. For him, time originally passes by really slowly. For me, it's always really quickly. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Virtually everything that I just talked about previously within these past 10 minutes. It goes by slowly. I can barely remember what happens. Even though I know exactly what happened, I can have troubles recalling some things. Time for me doesn't really exist, so I have to make sure that I always have a watch, or something to tell me what time it is, or something to tell me what day it is, because otherwise I would do my own thing and I would live life the way that I would without going to work, without going to school, if I could. But it's interesting to me how what's normal for me, scary, by all means, it can be scary, but not be normal for somebody else. Which brings me to the related topic that I wanted to talk about, false memories. Because of my lack of being able to remember things that happened hours ago, I would like to point out something, though, before I continue. And that is that I can remember certain things that were said as clear as day. I can remember something important that somebody told me. I can remember an important thing that's important to somebody else. I can remember those things with no problem at all. I can remember very deep and intellectual conversations that I have with people. I can remember what they say. But other times, I can have a conversation with somebody, recall that conversation, and have them tell me that's not what happened, or that wasn't the sequence of events that happened. And it really confuses me. So that's what I'm thinking about with the passage of time relating to false memories. And what is a false memory? How do we know that our memory is false? How do we know what reality really is? There are two different kinds of realities. There's your reality, and then there's the reality of the person that you're talking to. You remember it one way, they remember it another way. So who's correct? Who's to say that your conversation didn't go the way that you remember it, but who's to also say that the conversation didn't go the way that they remember it? To me, that relates to false memories, because false memories are just created by either by other people or by yourself. You know, you can think of an event saying, yeah, I recall that. That's what happened. When in reality, there was an event similar to it, but it was a completely different event than what you remember. So, is a false memory really a false memory in total? Or is it a false memory that can be conceived as a true memory? Like, is it reality to you? How do you really know what memories are true and what memories are false? You don't. I can recall a lot of memories from my past, but at the same time, I sometimes wonder, were those real? Or did I fabricate them from other memories that I can't completely recall? And I'll be honest, that's a little bit of a scary thing to think about. What's true and what's false? What really happened versus what I think happened? Technically, they're both my reality. They're both what I perceive. They're both true to me. But at the same time, I want my memory to be correct. I want my memory to be true to the truest true that it can be, which honestly, if you think about it, that does include false memories because it's real to you. Which is an interesting thought. And either way, does it really matter if we have all completely true memories, false memories, and true memories, or all completely false memories? Because what we remember shapes us into who we become, or at least it can. It can play a role into who we become, who we develop into, and how our personalities continue to grow. There are some people with no memory of their past at all. And so that can be a scary thing to think about. If your memories shape you, how can you be shaped by things you don't remember in the past? And that's a good question to ponder. But that brings up another question. Who are you really then? Who are you if you aren't your past experiences? Where does your personality come from? Are you already born with your personality? Some people believe that, some people don't. Does your personality develop over time? And then, if you can't recall your past memories, is your personality just kind of an instinct? Or do you create your personality day by day as time goes on? It's always a good question to ponder. Always a good question to ask. And honestly, something that I actually never really thought about. I've thought about the perception of time, and I've thought about false memories. But the thing I never thought about was what makes me me. The only thing that I was able to think about that makes me me are my past experiences. Being who I am was based off of my past experiences. But at the same time, my mom already said that I was born with my own personality. I was the already quiet and to myself kind of baby. She could have loud parties with music blasting and I would sleep peacefully. I wouldn't cry. Stuff like that. So maybe I was already born with a personality, but as I got older, it also got shaped and continued into that personality through my experiences. Unless my personality was already set and my experiences happened because of my personality, because of who I was born as. So that brings up another question. Do we have free will and free choice to steer our lives into a certain direction? Or is it by fate? Are our paths already laid out in front of us? Can we make certain decisions, no matter what they are? They can be completely erotic and still end up at the exact same point where we're supposed to end up? Or can we make all of the different choices that we want and end up in a completely different place? So, like, I went A, C, D, E, G, F. Say those were my choices, and I ended up at Z. Would those choices have mattered? Or could I have made a completely different set of choices and still ended up at Z? So many questions. So many things to think about. and almost, in a way, it feels like such little time. Again, these videos are of me and my perceptions and my opinions. I'm not researching anything yet. I've watched other things and I've read other things about these types of things that I'm talking about, but what I'm recalling is all from memory and not recent research. If anybody wants me to continue these, I will, and if not, maybe I will, maybe I won't. That's all up to the future, and we'll see. But if you watched this video, thanks for watching. Sorry if it was a little bouncy. This is, again, going off of another whim. So maybe the next video, if I do another one, will actually have an outline of what I need to talk about. Have a good night. Bye.